There will be people that look at you and say, oh, you can't do that or you shouldn't do that. But if you keep doing it, they'll be your biggest fans. Because why? Because you took the initiative to do what makes you happy, the passion you have. Just do it.
Welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast. It's your girl, Kate, here for another inspiring episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast. If you're new here, please make sure that you subscribe to the One Girl Revolution podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at One Girl Revo. That's the number one, Girl REVO. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and our email list. You can find all of our podcast episodes, our original documentary series, our social media links, and so much more on our website at onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number one, girlrevolution.com. Check it out. On this week's episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast, I am so excited to welcome Diane Latiker, founder of Kids Off the Block. Diane is a wife, a mama, and an all-out incredible woman. Diane founded Kids Off the Block after getting to know her youngest daughter's friends, hearing their stories of the streets, the struggles, drugs, and gangs. Diane made room for these kids to always have a safe place to do their homework, a place for a hot meal, and just a place to be heard and to be loved. What started out with just a few kids has turned into 20 years and multiple generations coming through her door. Thousands of children have been helped through her work. Kids Off the Block provides a multi-service youth program which promotes good health, educational achievement, and personal and social growth. Kids Off the Block describes itself as a holistic care center for prevention, personal growth, and empowerment. Kids Off the Block provides a safe place off the block, especially for those young people who do not feel welcomed by traditional youth programs, and provides recreational activities and educational opportunities for them. The success that Kids Off the Block has had in helping numerous generations, thousands and thousands of young people, is absolutely incredible. And they just continue to grow and evolve, and they are helping more people in new and more ways as they continue to grow. You are going to love Diane, and you will be so inspired by her story and Kids Off the Block. I am so excited to share this episode with you and this story. So without further ado, here's Diane. Diane, welcome to the One Girl Revolution podcast.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Kate. I'm so honored to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on. It's been so cool to go through your website and learning about all the great work that you do. Our mutual friend, Debbie Sardone, who I had on a few weeks ago on the podcast, she's amazing. And she was like, you need to know Diane. And so I'm just so excited to have you on to share all about your story and your work. And yeah, you're just incredible. So I'm so happy to be connected with you.
Oh, thank you.
So I'd love for you to be able to tell your story to our listeners. So if we could just take a minute and rewind a little bit, I'd love to hear a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and just your upbringing.
So I'm a 65-year-old great grandmother who bloomed late, because I believe God saw fit, because Diane Latiker in her 20s or early 30s was not ready for this and probably would have ran away. Because I always thought about why, I wasn't summoned in my early 20s or 30s. And then I had to sit back and think about it. Diane, you were not ready for this. I had to get a little age on me. But I started out, I was the oldest of six young children. I'm thinking of the young people. From my mom, who was a single parent, she raised me to believe that we can do anything that we put our mind to. And growing up, I always thought, now how am I gonna do that? As a young person, I'm like, oh, everything seems impossible in your mind. You think you're invincible at that teenage age, but in the back of your mind, you're like, I need help. And I grew up on the south side of Chicago. And I had a pretty decent childhood. I didn't know that we were poor because my mom worked so hard and she strived so hard to make sure that we didn't focus on that. So I loved my childhood. I went through some things as a teenager. I was married at 16. I got pregnant on my birthday at 16. And I was just in awe of family. And so I think that's what I had to really look at myself internally. I think that's what drove me to get married and have a bunch of kids because I thought that was the fairy tale, you know. And I soon learned later on in life, of course, there aren't any fairy tales. But I, in my early 20s, I had 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. I was married for 9 years and divorced after 9 years. I had 2 more after that, and I remarried. I met my second husband. We got married after 2 weeks of dating, if you call it dating. And so we got married, and we had 2 more. So I have a total of 8 kids, 4 boys and 4 girls, ages 32 to 49. And in my 30s, I wanted to be somebody who just lived, who went fishing, who, had kids and grandkids, and that was it. I was not even thinking about what the future held for me as far as helping. I mean, I love to help people. That was no issue, but I had no idea that this was waiting on me, And I tried to run. When I got in my 40s, I had settled down, mellowed out. And I'll just sit back after retiring and go fishing. And I had it all planned out.
Isn't that amazing how life is, though? I think sometimes people get to different points, different stages in your life where you're just like, all right, I can just sit back, relax, put my feet up. Your kids are raised. And no, you have your life took a totally different turn. And now you're doing incredible work. I would love to hear the story of how Kids Off the Block started, because I know there's a really powerful suddenly moment where you knew that you needed to get involved and do something. Can you share that story?
At 46 years old, Aisha was the last one at home. She was 13 years old. And I just wanted to make sure that Aisha went to a school, graduated high school, and went to college. Because in my mind, I'm being selfish. I'll be free. Everybody else is gone. And I can go fishing all day and night if I choose to. Of course, that didn't happen. When my mom brought it to me to do something with Aisha's friends, because to keep Aisha in line, I thought if I take her and her friends swimming and skating and to the movies and all that stuff, which Aisha did not approve of. Let me point that out. But I did that, and my mom saw it, and she said, you should do something with the kids. They like and respect you. In the back of my mind, I'm going, no, I'm going to be free. I don't want to do this. But I didn't tell my mom that, of course. But again, my faith. For 3 days, I fought it. I did. I literally just prayed and said, no, what? I'm 46 years old. I'm getting ready to go out to pasture somewhere. And on the 3rd day, though, Aisha and her friends were outside on July 15th. I'll never forget it. And I stood in the window and I was watching them, and they were going up and down the street like little kids playing, teenagers. And one man said, go outside and talk to them. And I went outside and I called Aisha and I said, tell your friends to come over here. I knew these kids, they were Aisha's friends. So I knew them. I thought I knew them growing up. But I asked them, would they come in my living room and sit down and talk to me? And they did. And I sat there and I listened to Aisha's friends tell me there were boys and girls, 13 and 15 years old. The boys were telling me about the gangs trying to recruit them. The girls were telling me about how failing in school. And then the boys told me they were failing in school. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm going, what can I do? These are other people's kids. Not that I have any degrees in anything and I can't stand math. So what can I do? They were failing in school. And one mind said, just do what you can. So off on this little venture I went to try to get some used computers and printers to turn my dining room into a small computer lab to help them with homework. And that was a process in itself because my husband had this big giant TV. I don't know if you remember that weighed a ton that everybody wanted. He had got one, and he would come home from work and get in his lazy boy and watch his big TV. And I saw that TV as a way to get those computers. So I begged them for 2 weeks. Can I sell the TV? No, leave the TV alone. Well, one day I couldn't take it about 3 weeks later, and I sold the TV. That was not nice. And when he got home, that was not pleasant. That was the first time he threatened to divorce me, by the way. First time. And I got to use computers, and I got some printers, and I started helping them with homework. The next thing I know, I got kids knocking at the door. I don't even know who they are. Where did they come from? I didn't even know they lived in the community. And they were, are you Miss Diane? And I'm like, yes. And they were like, they say you can help me. And I'm looking around my house going, who told you that? Wait a minute. But I let them in. And in the span of almost 3 months, there were 75 kids in our apartment, day and night. And it was so many of them going in and out. The neighbors were calling the police. 2 gang leaders threatened me and my family. I had to have them arrested. My van got shot up. It just started on its own track.
Wow.
Well, the more distance I got, the more I wanted to do it.
Yeah. Well, because it spreads like wildfire, right? The kids tell other kids, and then, hey, let's go over to Miss Diane's house, and it just grows. And I think what's so beautiful about your story and what I love so much is you just did what you knew, right? Like you were just present. You were just present for your daughter. You were present for these kids. I think a lot of times in our lives, we think we have to do something really big, right? Like I have to start an organization and then I'll raise a bunch of money and then I'll reach out. No, you just were like, hey, I have a living room and I have a table and we have a TV that I can sell.
You know what? If I had knew all that before I started, I probably wouldn't have started. So I'm glad I went in naive, not knowing anything. I knew nothing about an organization, EIN number and all that stuff. And I'm glad I didn't, because if I had, I probably would have made a decision not to do it, to try to raise money and find a place and all that stuff. Well, all we had was our apartment. We had our home and they were welcome there. And so if you can imagine having 70 or more kids or young people running in and out, I would come outside in the morning and they would be sitting on my steps, asking for help to get out of gangs, to go back to school. It was just homeless kids. I had to make one of my little small rooms a floor mat for them to sleep on till we found them somewhere to go or go back home. So it was, but guess what? It was something I had longed for all my life, and that was something I had a passion in. And I found it at 46 years old. And I couldn't stop.
And that's important too, because so many people, we think like, oh, I don't know what my life's purpose is. Maybe my life's purpose is just to raise my own kids. And here you are, like you were given this new life, this new purpose at 46 years old. And I think it's so important for other people that are listening not to miss those opportunities, because we have opportunities throughout our entire life. And they say you don't have to die to have many lives. And here you are, a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I didn't know I was, because I'm a flawed person. I'm human. I have issues, and I know I do.
We all do, right?
but one of my things was I knew that I wanted to help. I knew that. The instant it happened, you talked about that moment that I knew it the minute that I opened that door to those kids that I didn't know, because I gave them the honor they gave me the honor. But I felt honored, because imagine a kid coming to a stranger's house and asking for help in these days and time. So I was like, wow, they trust me enough to come here. And you said it. When kids love something, people go, how do you advertise and recruit the kids? They recruit. When they like something, that's what they do. They tell their peers. And so we had no shortage of young people coming to the house. And we still don't. It's 19 years later.
They just keep coming.
They just keep coming.
How did it turn into the organization? Or was there a moment where you were like, hey, we're on to something. I think that we can do something bigger here. How did that evolve?
So that evolved when some of the young people would get arrested and they would call me before they would call their parents. So I would go to the precinct and I would hear chatter. And I heard a sergeant say, oh, I'm glad when they act up because I get overtime. And it hurt me to my heart. And I'm like, really? And then I had neighbors who was scared, rightfully so. You got all these different, sometimes I would have 6 different gangs in my house. And the neighbors were so terrified until they would see me outside and they would avoid me, right? But I think to myself, wow, if I could show them that there's value in these young people and that if they would just give them a few minutes, a little time. And I thought to myself again, Diane, you can do that. You don't need everybody to save it. I have to tell you this story. I locked myself in the bathroom in 2006. I was crying and screaming. I was telling my mother came over to see what was wrong with me because my husband couldn't do that with me. And my mom said, and I'm in there going, nobody wants to help. They don't love these kids. And my mom knocked on the door patiently and she said, he didn't give it to them. He gave it to you. So why are you trying to make them do what is not their purpose? And I just shut up. I just came to my senses. Like, she's right.
Yeah.
It's mine. It's what I'm supposed to do. It doesn't matter what everybody else does. And I go to that metaphor, if you build it, they'll come. Mm-hmm. So I just had to keep going, regardless, you know.
Yeah, but I think that's such a power. I got chills when you were telling that story because a lot of times we're like, why won't somebody else do it? Or why don't people see my vision for what I'm trying to do? Why am I the only person? And it's like, well, you're the person that was given that. You were given the vision for it. You were given the purpose for it, whatever the thing is. Yes. I think there are multifacets to it. And it's just incredible what you have just done with Kids Off the Block. And I know it's just continued to grow. So how many kids have you worked with? I know it's probably hard to keep track of all of them, but how many kids have come through the program and how many are in the program now?
The last time we actually tried to calculate, it was over 3,000 that have came through.
Wow.
But in this last year, we've worked diligently with 60 young people from 14 to 24. We worked with them a whole year, and boy, did we go! Oh man, we took them on to Drake University in Iowa. We took them to Arkansas University. We stayed in dorms. They were just amazing. We did leadership training. We did community organizing training. We did financial literacy. We did the gamut. We brought in dance instructors. So they could, in the summer, so they could move and, get healthy. We brought in music supervisors to teach them about music video, to counter negative music. We brought in people from retired educators so they could tutor. We brought in mentors. We just brought in the whole world because they need all of us. And when you saw them from where they came from when they first entered. Oh, and one little cute point. Some of the young people that are in our program now, their parents started with us.
Wow.
And yes. And so people say, you should move. It's dangerous over there. Yeah. And then what? Because those young people know that we're here. They know we're here. So they know they have a place in the community that they can find somewhere that will help them besides their family. So it's amazing. We have done so much till just in August, we did a 2-day, 24-hour peace jam where we had the riding bull and the climbing the rock. And oh man, it was amazing. The young people that we served, they performed, all of them. It was amazing. And they stayed for 24 hours. They slept in bouncy houses. And we had chefs that come in from we had Hispanic chefs, we had Black chefs, white chefs come in and fix food for them right on the spot. It was just amazing.
It's incredible. And I love that you're talking about, like, I think about the ripple effect, right? When you help somebody, like we were talking about, like all the kids share with other kids and they bring kids along. But the ripple effect of also you're affecting generations and generations of people. It starts with one and then it positively affects the next generation. And now their kids are coming and you know that that's going to have a positive effect on the kids, and that when that time comes. And it's just so incredible what you're doing.
It is. So I must admit, I have a team of 7 dedicated and they are just amazing. They've been with me from the beginning. They're still here. And it's just amazing the things that we share with others and bring in hundreds of people to help these young people that we love and want to save, impact their lives.
Yeah. And it impacts all the lives of the people that volunteer and donors and all those different things. And I'm going to ask you towards the end, like what people can do to get involved in your work, because I think it's so important for all of us. And that can have a positive effect on our lives. A lot of people, especially in this day and age, the world can feel so dark and desolate and we're all looking for purpose. And I think so often how important it is to volunteer and how that can just feed your soul, working with kids and even if it's just doing homework, right? Like what you were doing.
Right. That's right.
New purpose. Watch In Tandem, the new short documentary by One Girl Revolution, which highlights the incredible story of Caitlin Cullen and her restaurant in Milwaukee, The Tandem. The Tandem is more than a restaurant. It's a family, a community that at its height was a bustling restaurant serving food and supporting every single person who walked through its doors in one way or another. If someone needed a job, you got it. Having a bad day and needing a smile or a laugh, the Tandem's got you. Having a rough time and need support, the Tandem isn't just a restaurant, it's your family. They got you. When COVID hit in March 2020, the Tandem stepped up to serve the community in a new way. They stopped selling food to customers and started solely feeding people in need. The Tandem community ended up feeding over 115,000 people during the first year of the pandemic. Absolutely incredible. Get to know Caitlin and the Tandem story in One Girl Revolution's new short documentary, In Tandem. Watch In Tandem today at onegirlrevolution.com or on YouTube. Please watch and share this inspiring story. For people that are listening, Diane, what is Kids Off the Block? And tell me more about what you do. I know you mentioned a bunch of different things there, but for people that are listening that might not know about the great work that you're doing, what is Kids Off the Block? And tell me about the great work that you do.
So Kids Off the Block is an unconventional youth development organization. We're community-based in Roseland, in Chicago. And we are unconventional in the sense that whatever a young person needs, we don't fight against that. If they need shoes, they won't go to school because they have a hole in their shoe. We're going to find somebody, a donor somewhere, who will help us to buy a pair of shoes. They need a coat, we're going to do that. I've taken kids off the bus because they were afraid to go through different neighborhoods and put them in my van and take them to school. Whatever we need to do, aside from traditional programming, the tutoring, the mentoring, the sports, the justice programs, all that's cool. But these young people have different needs. And you have to include their families too. So we branch out to their families where how we can help them, because if you help their families, you help them. And you want them to thrive. You want them to be able to live free from violence, but you want them to thrive too. So here's how our signature event is called Feed a Teen, like Feed a Teenager. So how that got started was the first year I had 5 young people come to my house for Thanksgiving. It was cool. Oh, wow, that's cool. The next year there were 12. I'm like, okay. Me and my mom was like, okay. The third year was over 20. So me and my mom said, no, we got to do something. So my mom, my husband, and my sister, we got together and we got donors to rent us a tent and put it on a vacant lot across the street that holds 300. And that year, 138 young people came out to eat with their families. And they were from different gangs. The most we've had is 800. And they come from everywhere. This is our 16th year. And they come from everywhere with their families. But I'm telling you, it started so organic, like just them coming to the house because they wanted to eat with us, on Thanksgiving. because some of them were homeless and some of them were out in the street, and their families were not, yeah, I guess, but they came to my house. And all of a sudden this was born out of that, this thing that we do every year called Feed a Team. And we have we have hundreds of volunteers that come out to feed the young people, because on that day, they get fed, they get serviced, and they get to eat all day if they want. We have caterers that bring really good Thanksgiving meals, and we have desserts, and we have entertainment and prizes for them. It's really beautiful. It's beautiful. And it came out of the fact that there was a need in my community. And so I'm just piggybacking off of what you said. It's so much, but it's so rewarding.
And it's doing exactly what you know how to do. Like, I love these different aspects of your story where you're making a Thanksgiving meal for your family anyways. You may as well open up your door. And that's how I was raised. My mom was always like, no one should ever be alone for the holidays. And so if she had to put up folding tables or other things just to invite other people in, that is just such a great precedent for everybody, to say, hey, nobody should be alone. And I love that you just opened your door to kids on Thanksgiving. And then it's just continued to grow and grow and grow to hundreds of people. It's incredible.
I love your mom already for saying those words, because it's true.
It's true.
It's true. Yes.
And we need community, and that's exactly what you're building with Kids Off the Block. So I want to ask you about the tech center, because I know there's a really cool story. I saw the video that Karlie Kloss did. Tell me about the tech center. What do you guys do there? And tell me the cool story of how it actually came to fruition.
So I have been behind the landlord that owns that building for like 10 years when I started Kids Off the Block, because they were in my house. There was so many in my house. I was trying to get out of my house, get them out of my house. So anyway, he wouldn't sell. But in 2016, I was a top 10 woman of worth with L'Oreal. And I went to New York and I spoke at the award ceremony. Karlie Kloss was there. And I came home, and about three days later, I seen Karlie Kloss tags Diane Latiker. And I'm like, Karlie Kloss? And so I clicked on the link, and there she was. And she was asking everybody to donate to get us another house, to get out of my house, get the kids out of my house. I'm like, wow, look at that. And she raised $55,000. He wanted $80,000. And so L'Oreal stepped in to pay the rest of it. And we got to build it. In the meantime, when that happened, the roof fell in. So we still had to stay in my house. The roof fell in. So it took us a year to raise the money to get the roof fixed. By that time, the pandemic hit. So we just, it's going to be a technology entrepreneurship center, because the young people that we serve, they don't have skills. And when I say skills, I mean lifetime career skills, where they can get these skills and go anywhere in the world at any time and get a good job. And I found out that means a lot. To be able to thrive when you work and take care of your family and yourself and your needs, that means more than the gun and the violence and the gang. And so that's what the tech center is. And it's going to house arts, music, a clothing design program, and a technology hub. And so I'm just super excited about it. We put in a proposal to the city of Chicago, and we're waiting to see if we get it so we can rehab it and get in there.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to continue to follow what you're doing with that, and obviously follow all the other great work that you're doing. And we want to support you in your continued efforts, because it's just incredible to see everything that you're doing. And I think it's important to note, when we're talking about all these kids that you're working with, people may be listening and be like, why don't these kids just go to school? And it's like, well, they're dealing with so many different things. They're dealing with gangs, bullies, drugs, all the different things. They have to dodge all of that. And then there are other people that might be like, oh, if you're in a bad neighborhood, why don't you just move? And the reality is, it's not a luxury for the majority of people. And so you're just like, I just love that you've set up shop right where these kids are, right where their families are. And you're like, whatever you need, we're here for you, because that's what we need to see more of in this world. Not like, hey, just go to school and, stay out of trouble, or move if there is violence or crime or all these other things going on. No, you're sitting in the thick of it with these kids, and it's amazing.
Oh, I have a lot of awards, and I would trade them all if I could get the resources I needed to help these young people the way they should be helped. We use what we have, and I'm thankful for all the volunteers and donors. I'm thankful for that. But we could do so much more if we had everything that we needed to make sure that they go to school, make sure that they graduate and go to college, or maybe they'll become entrepreneurs. They don't want to go to college, whatever they want to do. That's more important than these streets and what's going on here, and I fight for that every day, every day. And somebody asked me, I'm grooming Aisha to take over. She's been running from me forever. But I'm behind her. But they say, you should quit. You should. And then what? Because I'm 65 years old, I just got started. I have wisdom now. I know what I'm doing. And now you want me to go sit down? No, I'm going to help as many young people as I can with every breath that I have, as long as I can.
And there's so much potential, and there's so much work to be done too, Diane. You see that day in and day out.
Yes,
I'm sure
day in and day out.
It's difficult because you're like, if I had more money, or if I had more time, or if I had all the different things, but it's just incredible what you've been able to accomplish and what you're accomplishing every single day with your volunteers, and what these young people are accomplishing too. It's just incredible.
I was on the Kelly Clarkson show, right? And I think it was 2020. And she surprised me with two young men that I hadn't seen in a couple of years. They moved to different states or came back to Chicago, but I hadn't seen them. And she like, I have a surprise for you, Diane. I'm like, really? And she said, yeah, Walt is here and Joel. And I'm like, what? And when they got through, we both were crying. Kelly was crying, I was crying. When they got through telling me, because I forgot, I'm moving on. I'm not thinking about all that. I just do what I can and let them go where they're going. But when they got through saying, because of you, I was able, Joel became a school teacher. Walter became a mentor, has his own organization, mentors hundreds of young people. And all because I opened my door? Are you kidding me? It was just amazing. I cry, family.
I believe it. And I'm sure that you're going to cry so much more, because you're going to hear from so many other young people. I think it's like anything. Some people move on and you never hear from them again. And you're just like fingers crossed, hoping and praying for them that they continue on the right path, or continue on their path towards where they're supposed to be. But then other people, I'm sure, are going to come back in your path. I know that you have other people that have come back with their kids, volunteering, all that kind of stuff. And it must be so cool for you to hear all these stories.
Wow, it is. You never know. Well, one thing I love about the young people that we serve, when they do come back, they're sharing it. They're spreading it. And that means everything, because that means it's not just contained. It's going out into the world where it's supposed to go. They're helping their communities, their families, each other. That means everything.
Diane, I know that there are probably so many stories, and I know you mentioned a couple there from the Kelly Clarkson show, individuals that you've worked with, but are there a couple of stories that really touched your heart or kind of blew you away and said, this is the embodiment of why Kids Off the Block exists?
Definitely. Maurice, I tell the story of Maurice a lot. Well, let me start with Quan, though, because Quan was a little boy, he was 11. And he came to Kids Off the Block. We took over some lots across the street, some vacant lots. I put a basketball thing over there. And Quan came because he loved basketball. And when he came, Miss Diane, I'm a little bad boy. I do bad stuff and I need help. I'm like, okay. So he started playing basketball. And come to find out, he was amazing. He grew with us. He's on a lot of the interviews too that we've done. He was afraid to come outside. His mom wouldn't let him go anywhere but to KLB. She wouldn't let him go to any other places in the community, but here. And he's now in college. He got a full scholarship. He's just he's smart. He wants to be an artist. Um, and I was looking at him the other day on Facebook, and he's just amazing. The things that he's doing now to give back. He's talking to his peers at his college and telling them about community. All the time I thought he wasn't listening to me. But he was. He's mimicking everything. And then when I reached out to him, see how he was doing, he said, I want to build what you build for us. I want to build it here. I'm like, really? And that's it. That's the thing. So then there's Maurice. Maurice was in 7th grade. All the teachers were mad at Maurice because he kept up a lot of stuff. And he would get into fights and the kids didn't like him. And one day he knocked on my door. He was 13. And he told me, he said, Miss Diane? No, he said, you are Miss Diane? I said, yes. He said, well, they told me to come see you. That's the way he talked to me. He said, they told me to come see you. I said, yes. How can I help you, Maurice? And he said, Miss Diane, I need help. He said, I want to change my life. And I said, wait a minute. Didn't you just tell me you were 13 years old? I said, you have no life. And he said, no, Miss Diane, I've stolen, I beat up people. He said, and I don't want to do that anymore. And he came in my house and I found out so much about him. His mom had been on drugs. They had been sleeping outside in the projects on the cold concrete. It was so much. No wonder he was angry. And it took about 6 months to find out what was really going on with Maurice. And I was shocked. He wanted to play football. He wanted to play football. So I started helping him with his homework. I would go up and talk to his teachers. And then he went to high school. I went to talk to his deans and we worked together. And Maurice became this young man. He's on the CNN video, if you saw the CNN video. He became this young man who just turned our whole program around. He started mentoring the younger kids. The teachers started calling me, telling me the change he had made. And actually, it was his birthday 2 days ago. And he sent me a text. Miss Diane, you remember it's my birthday? I said, Maurice, I know it's your birthday. But he's a grown man now, but he's amazing. And that's, to me, that's what it's all about. He's alive. He's thriving. He has a family now. He's working hard, to build something with his family. To me, that's what it's all about.
Donate to One Girl Revolution's nonprofit organization to help us continue our work, highlighting inspiring women and girls that are changing the world through their lives, promoting their work and their organizations, and building a powerful and positive force out in the world dedicated to empowering women, their voices, and their stories. Donate at onegirlrevolution.com/donate. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com/donate. It's just listening to these kids and just spending time with them and building community and whatever they want to do. If they want to change relationships, they want to change their life. And a lot of these kids, I'm sure they don't have the support system to actually help them get out of whatever situation is going on in their school or in their community. And I might have shared with you, Miss Diane, through One Girl Revolution, we did a short documentary at Cook County Jail, and I'll send it to you just so you can see it. And I interviewed 5 incarcerated women about their lives, not about what they did to end up in Cook County, but who are they as people? And they told these beautiful stories of when they were little kids and all these hopes and dreams they had. And then something in their life came around, and whether it was a relationship or a lack of relationship, and they ended up on the wrong path. Ended up in Cook County Jail, but the documentary is called The Girl Inside, because I think inside each and every woman is a little girl, that had hopes and dreams or has hopes and dreams. And I believe that that's every person, right? We're born with this beautiful spirit and a purpose, and it's really unveiling what is our purpose. And that's what you're doing with these kids. You're changing that trajectory. And that's why I wanted to have you on this podcast, is it's just absolutely incredible and so needed. And I can't wait to see where you go from here, but just building relationships with these kids is so critical.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Miss Diane, I'm curious what you think. So you're working with all these different kids and you do a lot of different things, and maybe it's just relationship, but what do you think is the most critical part of Kids Off the Block, the work that you're doing?
Being accessible, caring, not judgmental.
Mm.
Those are the basics. That's it.
That's it. It's so simple. And it's so simple for people that are listening. I'm just so inspired by what you're doing. And sitting here in Detroit, I'm thinking about what can I be doing for these kids out here? And I need to be looking out for opportunities.
Doing it. You're sharing important stories which inspire others.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So I want to talk about your book because it's so incredible and so inspiring. What made you want to write this book, Kids Off the Block?
I wanted to let everybody know that a 46-year-old mother from the south side of Chicago can do something. And if she can, so can you. That was the whole purpose of the book. Look, I went through this, and this, but it was the most rewarding thing I ever done in my life. Yeah, it was overwhelming. I quit every day. But nothing could take the place of what was going on in my house, listening to these young people, listening to the families and opening up just everything. My heart, my home, it was everything. And I never knew how being stressed and overwhelmed could feel so good. I didn't. And I just wanted everybody to know that. That's why I wrote the book. Look, I went through all these things. And you're probably going through stuff yourself. Maybe you're going through worse than I am. But guess what? You still can do something to help another. You can.
I'm going to post the link to your book, and I want to encourage everybody to read it. I want to encourage everybody to follow you on social media, and I'll post all of those links. But you have so much going on with Kids Off the Block, and I know that you've grown so much and you'll continue to grow. But where do you go from here? Or I guess in your dream of dream worlds, where do you hope that Kids Off the Block goes from here?
So I get so many calls a year from different cities: New York, St. Louis, Atlanta. I even get letters from Germany and London, South Africa, to start Kids Off the Block programs. And so my dream is to make sure this is good in Chicago, turn it over to Aisha, and then go travel the country and start it in other cities. Because I'm sure young people could use, not that people in other cities aren't already doing great and wonderful things. I just think that we have our own little niche of the way that we reach young people, especially young people who don't go to traditional programs. So that's my dream, is to start other KOBs, Kids Off the Block programs in other cities. That's what I want to know.
I can't wait to see it grow because I know it's so needed all over the country, but like you said, all over the world. And it's so simple, just creating relationships and community with these kids. Yes. Yeah. So I can't wait to see where you go from here. For people that are listening, what can they do to support the work of Kids Off the Block?
Well, they can go to our website at kidsofftheblock.us. They can make a donation, or they can reach out to us and say, hey, I want to volunteer for that Thanksgiving event. Or they can say they want to volunteer right after that. In December, we have our Christmas toy giveaway, where we give over 500 families toys. They can donate the toys, or they can donate cash. They can do whatever they want. They can come volunteer, help pass out toys. Or either they can reach us at our office, 773-941-6864. They can find us all over the internet. They can just look us up. But, another thing they could do, help the communities, help your own communities by volunteering for youth organizations in your own area. And if it's not one they're started, if you have a love for young people, if you want to do something but don't know what to do, start it anyway. Talk to one of them. That's starting it.
I'm thinking about even like the Thanksgiving dinner is like, if you're making a meal, invite some neighborhood kids over to share a meal. Or if your kids have friends, invite them over. An open door policy where you can really build community and relationship with so many kids that probably don't have any adult to talk to.
There you go.
So I love it. I love that people can emulate the work. And that's so important as we can emulate the work of what you're doing. And just by seeing kids and making a space for them in our lives. Diane, if you could get to the very root of why you do what you do, what the driving force behind your work, because I know some days are really hard. And like you said, you quit every day, which I feel like has given me the freedom to be okay with. Like, there have been times where I've tried, I want to quit on different days. But what is the driving force? Like, what is the root of why you do what you do?
So everybody always says, "Oh, that's so cool what you do, and you inspire those kids." No. They inspire me. The reason I do what I do is because of them. The minute I think, okay, everything's quiet, it's good, there's a young person that'll reach out to me from the past or even from the future and say, "Miss Diane, thank you. Thank you for what you did for so-and-so. Or thank you for what you did for me. Thank you so much." And I'm off again. I'm fired up again. If it wasn't for you, I'd be dead or in jail. Something, on those lines. And everything, every time I think about quitting that day, it goes away. Because somebody will show up at the doorstep. Somebody will call. Somebody will text. They text all the time through Facebook and Instagram. But those words mean everything. So that's what keeps me going. When I say, "Oh, I'm just going to stop and go fishing." No, I'm not.
There's too much work to be done.
Right.
Well, Diane, you are a One Girl Revolution, and I'm just so grateful to have you on to share in this podcast about the great work that you're doing. And like I said, I can't wait to continue to follow all the great work that you're doing. But I'm curious who a One Girl Revolution is in your life. Who's a woman or girl that has inspired you or inspires you?
My mom. She was amazing when I was growing up, knowing I was closest to her because I was the oldest, right? My mom had me when she was young. So I watched everything. And I watched her maneuver in the worst of times. And I watched her not see it in the worst. She saw, how can I do something about it? She always thought like that. She still does, and she's in her 80s. And she still thinks like that. If I come to her with a problem, she goes, "Oh, wait, what? Okay, let's see." I'm like, "Mom, having a catastrophe here." But she's just like that. And she inspires me to not look at what is wrong, but what can be right. Yeah.
Well, she must be so proud of you. And I know that you're a One Girl Revolution in her life as well. Diane, this has been so awesome having you on the podcast. I can't wait to continue to follow everything that you're doing. But before I let you go, I always end this podcast on one question. So I'd like to ask you, if you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
Like Nike, just do it. If it's something that you love, even if it's just jumping rope, go jump rope. Who are you waiting on? It's you. It's you. It's what you love. It's what makes you happy. Go do it. You don't need approval. I used to think I needed a big building. I needed $1 million to help. I didn't. I just needed to open my door. And that's what I loved. That's when I realized I had found this amazing passion that I wanted to stay in. I quit my job. I wanted to just do it. Well, I would leave that message with everyone. If it's something that you love and you want to do, if it's knitting a coat, get you some needles. You'll be surprised how much it brings to your life to know that, hey, I'm knitting my coat that I wanted to knit. Or I'm jumping the rope, or I'm golfing and I never thought I could. And guess what? There will be people that look at you and say, "Oh, you can't do that," or "You shouldn't do that." But if you keep doing it, they'll be your biggest fans. Because why? Because you took the initiative to do what makes you happy, the passion you have. Just do it.
And the ripple effect, just like what you're doing too. If you do it, it's going to give other people the ability, or it'll be their magic feather where they see what you're doing and they're like, "Oh, I can do it too."
Give them the
And
courage.
he gives them the
Give them the
courage.
Yes.
And you are giving so many people the courage to be who they were created to be and find their passion and find their purpose, just like you did. Even if it's when you're 46 years old, life is full of many chapters. So Diane, I am just so grateful to know you and to get to spend time with you. Thank you so much for being on the One Girl Revolution podcast. And thank you for all the great work that you do.
Thank you so much, Kate. And I will be following you from now on.
Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at One Girl Revo. That's the number One Girl REVO. And you can find more information on One Girl Revolution at onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com.